All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today I'll be doing my preview and prediction for Week 5 contest going down Friday night in Charlottesville between Florida State and Virginia. Noles, 7.5-point favorites. 57.5 is the total, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Getting things started with the FSU offense on that Cavilers defense. Thomas Castellanos has came over and he's made a significant impact in boosting up the productivity for this offense. They, of course, beat Alabama week 1. In the last 2 weeks, they've really just been running it up. For the last 2 games, that is, they've been running it up on much weaker opponents in blowout fashion. So a lot of the intel is really going to be from the Alabama game, who all offseason long I said I'm not convinced Bama was going to win that game because when you saw them last year, they struggled in certain areas, and it felt like Florida State and Gus Malzahn could exploit those weaknesses when it came to the QB run, misdirection, motion. And FSU did it to a T, and Castellanos was major in doing that. And they were also able to flip it behind Alabama's head a couple of times for big plays in the passing game. And Castellanos, he's only played, a couple of snaps, the past 2 contests against those freebie opponents. So they haven't exactly had the greatest of opportunity to really break in this passing attack fully. 198 yards per game, though, from Thomas, only averaging 13 attempts per contest. Deuce Robinson, phenomenal receiver out wide, has tremendous size and catch radius, 6'6", 223. He ended up really only breaking out against East Texas A&M. A big chunk of his yards came in that one, less than 30 yards in the other 2 games this year. This is a guy who's still going to lead your passing attack. Mekhi Danzy, as a redshirt freshman, has broken out, and he's been great in terms of his efficiency. He's got 5 carries for $173 and 3 scores, and he's also the second leading receiver on this team. He's been highly explosive, averaging well over 30 yards per play for him. Probably won't have that much success as we enter conference play, but the explosion is certainly there from this offense. Gavin Sawchuk has tremendous speed. Jalen Luke is kind of a forgotten player who's a do-it-all guy who can, at running back, can also catch the football and do work in special teams. So this offense, in terms of their supporting cast, has significantly been better, and I think this is going to be a run-heavy offense, of course. I think they're going to do well through the pass game, but how well really remains to be seen as we're going to enter ACC play now. Is really a lot of the production has been coming from some of these versatile players, not pure wide receiver. Squirrel White hasn't really been much of an impact. Some of the younger guys down the depth chart haven't did much. Deuce Robinson, I'm a huge believer in, and he's going to be a focal point for this team as the season goes on. If you look at the rushing numbers, pretty ridiculous. 363 yards per game. I mean, they've just been teeing off on these weaker opponents. They did have 230 and 4 scores against Bama. I mean, they dominated the Tide, of course. But 498 and 8 scores against Kent State. I mean, that's just mean, and that obviously significantly boosts the numbers for this team. We're really not even sure who the running back 1 is because they've had so many different guys getting touches, but I think Sawchuk and Lucas are going to be the main ones. And then Castellanos, of course, he's going to be looking to make plays with his legs as well. This is a team that also went to the portal and made waves in the portal on the offensive line, mainly on the interior. I love Richie Leonard at left guard, actually one of the lone returnees. Luke Pettibon at center, though, and right guard. Adrian Medley have been respectable. At right tackle, Micah Pettis, he was a multi-year starter at Ole Miss, off to a good start. And then Gunnar Hansen at left tackle is playing some good football. And you're going up against a Virginia defense that they just played NC State a couple of weeks ago, and they really struggled with that balanced attack. They ended up starting hot in that game. The offense cooled off a little bit, and it allowed NC State to rip off some explosives and gave them the victory in that one, 35-31. This is a team that's going to look to contain the run, of course. Mitchell Melton, off to a great start at defensive end. Fisher K-Mac, I think, is a very capable run stopper. Kazim Moore off the edge. I like some of those guys. Jason Hammond, Jameer Carter on the interior are going to be your standouts when it comes to defensive tackle. And then Jacob Holmes has been getting some good reps on the inside as well. So this is a group that has a handful of different bodies. How skilled really are they? I think the jury's still out on that, but I don't think this is a bad group at all. Even Daniel Rickert is off to a nice start, second on the team at 2.5 TFL. Mitchell Melton leading the way in that category. At linebacker, James Jackson's a veteran. Landon Danley has stepped in, though. He's been a great starter so far, leading the team with 20 tackles. The linebacking core, being, in place and, having athletic ability is going to be a major challenge for them, especially if this defensive line is having some struggles. I think it's a capable linebacking group. I think James Jackson, though, is going to be ultimately the guy that's going to have to come up with the best plays. Maddox Marcellus, I think, is a good player. He's been a very inefficient tackler, though, to start the year. And obviously, I think missed tackles is going to be a big thing in this game, especially for Virginia. It's going to be hard to get these guys to the ground, especially with Malzahn's play calling. The secondary, I don't think it's all that ideal, especially at corner. It's one of the weaker rooms, I think, in the conference. Donovan Platt, Emmanuel Carnley have not been all that good to start the season. At safety, though, a little bit more polished. With Devin Neal, a veteran of college football, and then Christian Charles stepping into a starting role. You've also got Ethan Minter, who's a great player, playing a lot as well. He's been, in the box, in the slot. He's been doing a little bit of everything for this team. Jason Prevert has been a big weakness for them out of the slot. So the secondary is not all that talented. I think for Florida State, you can put them in long passing situations, though, which I think at times in this game is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for FSU running the football. And then the secondary will have opportunities to eat. But against NC State, obviously, that was a significant problem for them, defending really the explosives through the air and on the ground. It's a really good offense that's fielded by them, of course. On third down, though, the defense has been great, 21% on the year. And that includes 1 for 7 for NC State. So they really did damage on this defense when it comes to holding opponents in check on third down. That's really been a area for them to thrive in this season. I think ultimately FSU, though, I think the jury is still out on this offense because they were able to exploit an Alabama weakness to a T, and then we've had them just run it up on weak opponents. So how effective can they be now going on the road for the first time against a respectable Cavilers football team that's sitting at 3-1? Now we're going to move to the other side of things. You have a Virginia offense. They went to the portal and got some muscle themselves in the form of Chandler Morris at quarterback. Obviously, this is a guy that comes over from UNT after being a multi-year starter, putting up crazy numbers for the Mean Green. He's balling out, 71%. 262 yards per game, 8 touchdowns and a pick. He's also a capable runner who's got one on the ground this year, coming off a complete clinic against Stanford. He was really eating up NC State as well. He only had 257 yards in that game, but they did a lot of damage across the middle. They were very good on third down in this one as well. They were in a lot of those situations, but there was a lot of third and shorts, and they just could not stop them. 13 of 19 on third down. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous to have that many attempts, and that's been a theme for them. They've been in third down a lot, 13-plus attempts in every single game this year. Pretty sure that leads the country, if I had to guess, in terms of attempts. Looking at it now, second to Hawaii, who has one more game on them. So pretty much top in the country when it comes to that. So you want to stay out of third down as much as possible, but they're very comfortable in those situations. Chandler Morris, he's been very accurate. Like I said, across the middle of the field, this guy's pinpoint accuracy, a quick pass game he really thrives in. 30 attempts per game, high-volume passing attack. He has the receivers to match it as well. Trell Harris coming off an elite effort against Stanford and now has him as the top receiver on this team. 145 and 3 scores. Pretty much all that came in the first quarter as well. He does have plenty of receptions across the other games as well. Cam Ross, this has been a very pleasant addition as well, coming over from James Madison, a veteran player that's now second on the team in receiving yards. 5'10", 186 pounds. He has some explosiveness to his game. Also really stood out against Stanford. Jamal Edrine, this is a guy who's a veteran of the program. He was really the go-to against NC State with 6 receptions for nearly 70 yards. So you have a nice 3-man rotation at pass catcher, and in terms of starters, that is. Cameron Courtney, I think, is probably your best rotational receiver. And then Sage Ennis has been a nice tight end with 2 touchdowns this year. So there's plenty of different options, I think, to go to. Nothing that's really going to blow you away, but they do have some talent. And I think it keeps it even better in the backfield. It's pretty deep. I didn't even know they had Harrison Whaley. But he's now their second leading rusher, 214 yards and 4 scores. Was silent over the first 2 weeks, but the last couple of games he's been getting involved for this offense. Jamari Taylor, he's been elite. This guy can do it all. He's a nice pass catcher. He's really good in the run game, 298 yards and 6 touchdowns. He had 3 of them against NC State. He's been an efficient back for them. And I think Xavier Brown, this is also a guy who's a bit of a dual threat back. He can make waves in the receiving game. He can hurt you with efficiency on the ground. So they have a 3-headed monster here. This is an offense that's been phenomenal. And that goes without mentioning Noah Vaughn, who's actually the 3rd leading rusher. So they have plenty of different guys that's allowed them to run for 251 yards per game, and nobody's been able to slow down this rushing attack yet for Virginia. The offensive line, in a quick passing game, and when it comes to quick game, obviously things are a little bit easier for them, but they still have some respectable bodies. Mikhail Boley at left tackle is having a phenomenal year. Jack Whitmer at right tackle. He's been a little bit more inconsistent. He's been giving up a lot of pressure, but I think the interior has been solid. Brady Wilson at center. Left guard, Noah Josie's probably your best player on this O-line. He's not allowed really anything. And then Drake Metcalf, a new starter at right guard. Going up against the Florida State defense, who I'm really not all that convinced is potentially different. When they played Alabama, that's a team that does not have a run game. They don't have a run game against anybody. Their top receiver, Ryan Williams, had a couple of drops, so left a lot of opportunities there. And then you had a quarterback in his first start that was a little shaky. He took off and run, made some questionable decisions out on the move as well. And if obviously credit the Florida State's defense, I think Tony White really had them in sync. The defensive line, led by Darrell Jackson Jr., who's a phenomenal run stopper, played a large part in that. But I still think the jury is out on them, especially with guys like James Williams and Daniel Lyons being inconsistent tacklers in the hole. Mandrell Desir is a guy that's really had to step up. Daryl Desir as well. The two brothers have been getting a lot of reps on this defensive line. KJ Sampson, Deontay McCray. Some guys I think are really good run stoppers, and they have the potential to really dominate this conference. I think this is really going to be their first test in terms of a rushing attack, because I think Virginia, they clearly run the ball a lot better than Alabama does. So I think this will be a nice little test for both to see who can be successful in that regard. Elijah Herring, a linebacker that followed White over from Nebraska. He's been the top dog there. Justin Cryer, higher up on the team when it comes to total tackles. He's been playing some good football. The linebackers, I think, are still potentially a little iffy trying to break into this new scheme. The reps have been very limited the last couple weeks because we haven't been playing just complete nobodies, and Blake Nicholson's also going to round out that group. In the secondary, Earl Little, the Alabama transfer, he's been really good for them. He's probably been the top dog overall, playing from his safety position. He's been phenomenal in coverage, really good against the run. He set the tone against the Crimson Tide and put on a show. Ashwin Barker is kind of the do-it-all guy for them in the secondary. Safety, lines up in the slot, gets into the box. He's been an efficient tackler for them. These corners, though, it's going to be a tough matchup against this passing attack. Jerry Wilson, Jabril Rawls, Quindarius Jones. What are we going to see out of these guys? I think this is a group last year that really underperformed. It mostly wasn't these guys. It was other players. But they had opportunities to break out, and none of them really did. I think Rawls had some really good plays at times last year, though, and he's probably going to be the top guy in this cornerback group. He ended up playing over almost 150 snaps, and he was respectable at times, but nobody really took the reins and ran with it. And this secondary, I think, is still trying to search for those top bodies at corner, and defending these receivers could definitely be a challenge this quick pass game, especially on the inside. Don't want to give up too much leverage, and you also don't want to get caught holding or coming away with PIs. So this is going to be a battle-tested group, absolutely, and I think it's one that Virginia has the potential advantage in. And then in the slot, they've also been trying to figure some things out. Edwin Joseph, KJ Kirkland have been kind of the mainstays in that spot. Bit of an inconsistent position for them. Moving to the final analysis and the prediction. 7.5 points is the line. I think Virginia covers that, and I think to win the game outright. Look, I know Florida State's top 10 in the country, and this team's obviously levels better than they were last year, and it was a disastrous team, and I seen that coming. I thought that they did a terrible job with the portal in 2024, and it led to them being bad, but in 2025, the script is different. It's really because of what they did with the offensive line, some of the guys at wide receiver, and of course Thomas Castellanos leading the way. I don't think things are going to be as easy here. It's your first road game. The passing attack, I don't know how effective they can truly be. I think this run game is certainly deadly because of all the versatility they have. But I think Virginia is capable of slowing them down and keeping them in check just a little bit. I know the NC State game was really tough for this defense, but their offense went cold, and that's the whole reason NC State was able to come back in that one. The offense for the Wolfpack got hot throughout that contest, especially in the second half, and allowed them to pull away. So the defense, this is a tough challenge, but I think you're looking at maybe more of a one-dimensional Florida State team. I can see them, getting down early, playing from behind, and having to throw the football a little bit more. Castellanos not being potentially as efficient with his legs to the boundary could be a problem. This is going to be a tough offense to defend. It's going to be like that all year long, but I think more importantly, this defense for Florida State, I just think the jury is out on them, and I think it is very large. I don't think these corners can hold these receivers, and the scheme is tough to defend. Chandler Morris is an architect back there. I think at home he's going to have a great game, and I think they're going to knock off Florida State in this contest. So that's just kind of how I see it playing out. It's totally possible this defense is just a lot better than I think it is, but I'm just not convinced that at the moment. And again, the win over Alabama, not a fluke at all. They were just able to take advantage of some of the weaknesses that the Crimson Tide brought to the table, and I don't think it's really indicative of how good Florida State is, maybe more so about how bad Alabama was at the time. So Virginia, I think they're going to get the job done. It seems like this happens all the time in the ACC, where the home dog, especially on a Friday night, is a pretty good play. So I'm going to take them outright. Virginia knocking off a top 10 team to get the weekend started. It's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.